Our story begins here, at the opening of the Aosta Valley. And as we move further in, we will be able to see two of the most significant castles in this region, the mansion in Issogne and the fortress in Verres. The mansion in Issogne stands on a slope made up of debris brought here by a mountain torrent descending from a side valley. Issogne appears to us as a noble dwelling, whereas the castle in Verres has always been a stronghold. Our castle is a medieval building, and if we look at it more closely, we will discover all the traces of the changes it has undergone over the years. The remains of a Roman villa have been found in the cellars and foundations. We can even read a funeral inscription on a marble slab which dates back to the 1st or 2nd century AD and bears witness to the presence of a Roman family living in the area. A vast area surrounding the villa was used to grow food for the family. Working such an extensive area of land had to have a very clear organization. Thus, the villa was made up of various buildings. The owner's dwelling, a storehouse for the farm produce, another building to house the livestock and accommodation for the farm workers. This type of setup was very common in rural villas at the time, but it was very different from dwellings built on the outskirts of towns. The houses built near towns were more like mansions, such as Consolata Villa, erected to the north of Aosta. Many years later, Issogne Castle came to be owned by the church, and so it became the bishop's residence. Its strategic position meant the surrounding area could be controlled more easily. A defense tower with battlements and bays measuring 13 meters per side was then erected on the old ruins. A second, slightly higher tower stood next to the first. The building in Issogne was not the only one of this type to be found in the region. We can also admire the Villette fortified mansion in Cogne and the Collin Tower in Villeneuve. Issogne gradually becomes a real castle in the 14th century. A boundary wall is erected, the main part of the building is enlarged, and another tower is constructed. It is the bishops who want these changes to increase their defense, but the lords of Verres are worried by it all. Aymon takes the castle by force in 1333, accusing Bishop Bersatori of having built the boundary wall without his permission. But the lords of Verres are not the only ones interested in Issogne. The area passes under the jurisdiction of the Challant family in 1379. The castle thus passes into the hands of Iblet de Challant, who was a knight and led the troops for the Counts of Savoy. Iblet had taken part in various military expeditions which had taken him to Naples, France, and later to the Valais area. In 1405, he dedicates himself to the erection of a sepulchral chapel for his family on the spur opposite the Saint-Gilles-Prévôt church. The changes to the building that Iblet wants transformed the castle significantly. A lavatory tower is built onto the main body, while part of the boundary wall is pulled down to build the new entrance to the courtyard. Lastly, the large southern part is erected. The castle thus becomes a real dwelling place, losing its function as defense. Georges was held in high esteem and was an important figure in the Challant family. As a result of his brilliant career in the church, he becomes the prior of Saint Orso at a very young age. Issogne is enhanced by new elements under his rule. A garden enclosed by a wall, an elegant open gallery decorated with painted lunettes, the pomegranate tree fountain, the spiral staircase and the chapel built onto the southern wing are all added. Georges tried to make the castle more harmonious by connecting all the various parts, but his project was not merely concerned with the architecture. The courtyard walls were also embellished with decorations and arabesques. The pomegranate tree fountain situated at the center of the courtyard to welcome guests is a true work of art. Its branches finish in 4 dragon heads, while the pomegranates, which were originally covered with colored patinas, are carefully made of wrought iron. Every part of the pomegranate tree is full of symbolic meaning. The water jets symbolize the rivers of earthly paradise, whilst the oak leaves are symbols of fertility. The tree was chosen because it is linked to the idea of family unity. The seeds protected by a pod represent the noble families. The pomegranate tree is the tree in the Garden of Eden. The basin is octagonal in shape and so reminds us of the baptismal font. Creating the garden radically transformed the visual impact of the castle. A new part, called the Room for Men of Arms, is built to the side. Its walls are frescoed with monochrome paintings which portray wise men and philosophers, noblemen on horseback, and hunting scenes. Unfortunately, little remains of these paintings. The garden is also poignant with symbolic meaning. Set apart from the world's corruption, it is a metaphor of the Garden of Eden and divine perfection. Other changes that embellish the castle are the series of paintings we can see in the courtyard's open gallery. The magnificent lunettes, which were painted by the master Colin. The paintings portray everyday life, people and trades from the late 15th and early 16th century. One, in particular, depicts the guards' room. The soldiers are not wearing their uniforms and are sitting around a table playing cards and backgammon. Their arms and armor are hanging on a rack. Another lunette offers us a tailor's workshop. The gold, red and black cloth clearly stands out. These colours belong to the Chaland family livery. It was both a duty and a right to wear this livery. It meant one belonged to a lord, but also the protection he guaranteed. The advantages of this privilege are clearly visible in the next lunette, which portrays the apothecary. We can see that the condition of the attendant wearing livery is blatantly different to the man with the mortar and the pestle. The message in this painting is perfectly clear. Colin wanted to communicate the peace and prosperity that the lord of the castle's good government guaranteed. However, the lunettes can still provide us with other interpretations and new meaning. Georges had a series of paintings painted on the walls opposite the courtyard. The sense of belonging to a particular noble family transpires from them. This is an important historical document which is developed in 2 distinct sectors. On one side we can see the coat of arms and the founders of the various branches of the family. On the other, the escutcheon that evoke the Chaland marriage alliances with the most important families from Savoy. The moment has come for us to cross the threshold into the castle. The spacious Room of Justice is situated on the ground floor. We immediately notice that the pattern of the decor leads our eyes beyond the walls. The painted colonnade is made with dummy glass and marble pillars, whilst in the frescoes the sky is incredibly light to give the room a brighter feel. Georges de Chalant's coat of arms, held by a lion and a griffin, stands out above the fireplace. The Judgment of Paris with the Graces and Venus is represented on the wall opposite. The family subjects met in this room to attend the hearings and judgments passed. Let's now go upstairs to the first floor, where we'll find one of the most important rooms in the castle, Marguerite de la Chambre's bedroom. This room bears her name as she was the first to use it. Her coat of arms, together with her husband's Louis de Chalant's one, can be seen here. There are wonderful frescoes in the oratory nearby, which is consecrated to the Countess's personal devoutness. The frescoes portray various figures, Marguerite with her daughters and daughters-in-law kneeling in prayer at the Assumption of the Virgin. The martyrdom of St. Catherine and St. Margaret are painted on the other walls. The prior's bedroom on the floor above is the exact copy of Marguerite's one. The family coat of arms is set above the fireplace, an arrangement we've already seen in the Room of Justice. The crucifixion of Christ with Georges looking on is depicted in the small oratory, together with Christ's deposition and the Pietà. The chapel above the entrance arcade is built with particular care. The chapel has one single nave divided into 5 spans separated from the presbytery by a wooden railing. The choice of iconography is very refined. The frescoes depict the apostles, prophets, the death of the Virgin and other saints. The altar panels are decorated with scenes from Christ's childhood. René de Chaland was born from the marriage between Philibert de Chaland and Louise d'Arbert. He was orphaned at a very young age, and in 1528 he married Mencha de Braganza, who gave him 2 daughters, Philibert Yolande and Isabelle. Little restoration work to the castle is carried out during this time. The large northeastern prison tower is erected and the entrance is changed once again. From this moment on, Issogne Castle is the same as we can behold today. It is more similar to a manor house than a fortress. Issogne thus becomes René de Chalant's and his family's favourite residence. They begin to furnish it magnificently, as we can see from the inventory of the times, which give us the opportunity to see which furniture and other objects were used in the various rooms. After the last heir of the noble family had died, Issogne Castle passes from one owner to another and experiences a period of decline. Following this period, the painter and leading cultural figure of his time, Vittorio Avondo, comes onto the scene. He buys Issogne Castle in 1872 and immediately tries to restore it to its past grandeur. A group of friends who share his love of architecture and of the Middle Ages help him in his mission. Avondo thus dedicates himself to looking for the furnishings which had been lost by previous owners on the antique market and carefully fitting out the interior of the castle with them, as we can see from the kitchens and dining room. The many photographs taken at the time bear witness to this meticulous enterprise and give us the opportunity of recreating the various rooms. Issogne thus becomes a private museum, but open to anyone who asks to visit it. The many drawings of the mansion made by the group of friends enhance their dedication. Their work is done in fine detail, and this has meant that the drawings have recently been used as models for further research. Avondo's last act before dying was to leave the castle and all its furnishings to the state and his private collections to the Museum of Turin. It is also thanks to Avondo if the castle is so well preserved nowadays. When we enter it, we are still enveloped by the atmosphere of the times, and we can relive the events and adventures of so many people who lived in this extraordinary place. The castle is highly valued, and even after so long a time bears witness to the culture and traditions which gave birth to the Aosta Valley.